All right. What is next for Alabama is the immediate question. And I think there are two names that everybody has circled for some reason. And I want to talk about why Dabo immediately got nixed out of here, but I think I know why. But the two names that are hottest right now, Kalen DeBoer, obviously the head coach from Washington, and Mike Norvell, the head coach at Florida State. Those are kind of the two names right here. And the DeBoer smoke is really, really loud for one reason. It's not just because he was super successful at Washington. It's also because of the representation that he has recently chosen, right? He has signed or has been signed to be represented by Jimmy Sexton. And I know a lot of you guys listening tonight are SEC fans, so you probably know the name Jimmy Sexton. Or you're really smart football fans, so you know the name Jimmy Sexton. If you don't, Jimmy Sexton is the definition of a super agent. Like, there are super agents in other sports. Scott Boras is one in the world of baseball, right? You got LeBron's agent in basketball. You got CAA in basketball. There are these super agents in the world of college football because players until recently didn't necessarily need representation. All of the representation focus was on, guess who? The head football coaches. Well, Jimmy Sexton, being the best representer of all of these football coaches, okay, represented all the great ones. As most recently, in the article that I could find, most recently in 2020, he represented 20 of the top 50 highest paid football coaches in all of America. And you guessed it, of those 20, majority of those football coaches, resided in the SEC. Okay, so at one point, Jimmy Sexton represented 11 of 14 SEC football coaches. Like, the dude is the conference's agent. And one article I read on, I can't remember who wrote it, maybe The Athletic, but it basically stated, like, you think Greg Sankey is powerful in this conference? Jimmy Sexton runs this conference. It was how powerful they connote this dude to be. So Caleb DeBoer signs with Jimmy Sexton, and immediately the tinfoil hat theory start rolling. Like, hey, that's indications this dude's coming to the SEC. Boys, do you buy into the notion that, like, hey, follow the representation, you'll follow the actions and the causation to these things?
I mean, yeah, I would think so. I think that whoever, like, you have your money linked to, wherever you're trying to be, I mean, regardless of, like, how personal you are and how personally driven you are, I mean, if you have a person as powerful as Jimmy Sexton, I think you're always going to be linked to things like this, and you're always going to be led to things that can know what he's also involved with.
It's definitely something to look at. I think it's definitely going to play a factor into who gets hired now, just because Sexton obviously has more leverage than any other agent in sports, honestly. But I don't know if that's going to be the deciding factor or if that's really what's going to be, X person got this job because Jimmy Sexton was their agent, or Alabama hired this person because Jimmy Sexton was the agent.
So if DeBoer is the guy, right, I have a couple of thoughts about this, right? First of all the dude's ever done is win, like at the Division II level, on into the Pac-12 level. Fresno, I think he was at Fresno State or some Northwestern mid-major
somewhere
school,
out there.
Okay, before he got to Washington and continued to win at Washington, right? But you guys know this, and everybody's already talked about this one with the idea of anybody coming into this conference that is a foreigner, okay, to the Southeastern Conference. You got to recruit at a different level down here. We already know DeBoer has not done that. Like, he has not recruited at a level, even this year when they're winning, on the run to win potentially a national title. He's recruiting like the 60th range right now in the Power 5. Okay, so it's not great, all right, with regards to his recruiting. That can't happen down here. Not just from, I'm not saying you can't win without recruiting at a high level, but your boosters aren't going to be satisfied. Like, one of the biggest things down here is acquisition of talent. Alabama put it out in their statement. We are looking for a coach who can recruit, develop, game manage. It wasn't game manage, develop, recruit. All right, it was recruit, develop, game manage. That was the requirements to be the Alabama head football coach. DeBoer has not shown, or at least does not have a track record, not saying he can't do it, of doing the elite level recruiting. You don't have to just recruit at an elite level down here. You got to really schmooze down here. All right, you got to be likable. I think Brian Harsin learned this really, really quickly, right? If you're not someone that can be a little bit of a salesman, all right, and you don't have the cachet of a 2004 national title at LSU, and you can tell boosters to F off, you know what you're doing, then you have to be able to kind of kiss ass a little bit. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of people aren't talking about with this idea that DeBoer might be coming to Alabama. Everybody's doing the recruiting thing. But here's the deal. No matter who takes the job at Alabama, the price went up. And I'm not talking about the coaching price. I'm talking about the roster price. Okay, because let's be very honest and forthcoming about all of this stuff. We understand nowadays that name, image, and likeness and essentially pay for play is a major contributing factor to everything regarding player acquisitions. Okay, so let me tell you something, and let me be very honest. Alabama has received something I would call the Saban tax as of late, meaning I don't receive as much money to go to Alabama because I know I'm going to play for Nick Saban and I'm guaranteed to win a national title during my time there. Well, guess who's no longer going to Alabama for a lesser price? Guess who's no longer getting the 5-star that they're competing with Ohio State or Notre Dame or Texas or Georgia? Guess who's no longer getting it at an 80% clip that they might have been getting years past because Nick Saban was there? The new coach. So the new coach, not only in DeBoer's case here, has to go from a place where at Washington, he had to get boosters to give a shit. He had to get boosters to care about football at a high rate, at a national title contending rate, right? He's going from that to now going to a place where he's going to have to essentially talk boosters off the ledge left and right. I got to stop with you guys. Y'all are doing too much. It's too much Texas high school football, Friday Night Lights type shit around here. He's going from one place where please, please care to the next place, please, please trust me. I'm good. All the while telling these guys to trust me and probably having to ask for more money. Guys, do you believe this idea and this take, if you will, that I'm claiming stake to, because I haven't heard it anywhere else, that not only is it a matter of, damn, you got to live up to Nick Saban, but if you're going to maintain this roster, it's going to cost you more money.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the only counter argument you can make to kids of like anybody of wanting NIL deals of sure, this school might be offering you something, but this is the trade-off if you come here. Sure, we might knock some percentage points off of what your payment would be, but you're also going to win more games probably here. Like you said, we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to win a national title here. Other places cannot offer that, but you can't make that argument anymore with a new head coach.
Not pretty much. During his 15-year run, there was 15 straight years where Alabama was ranked number one at least 1 week of the AP poll. During that 15-year run, if you committed to the University of Alabama, signed your national letter of intent, and played there for 4 years, you were guaranteed to win a national title. That's nuts. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I'm not saying that's no longer, but I'm saying the guarantees of that are no longer, right? Like you can't just walk into rooms and say, well, we're Alabama now. Yeah, you are. Okay, but now Alabama has to pay what Tennessee has to pay, right? Or whatever. Right? It's no longer come to Alabama, you'll be developed under Nick Saban. We get to pay you less. That's not it. So, again, you got to go in and you got to ask for more money. And that's wild. You are unproven at that school. And that's a really tough gig to start with. Not only that, which is why I think DeBoer might be the guy, right? If you're not going to be able to maintain the roster talent, at least to start, the first 2 or 3 years, whoever the next head football coach at Alabama is not going to recruit at the rate that Nick Saban did for the last 16 years. Fair?
Oh, hell no.
Okay, fair. So if you're not going to recruit at the rate that he is, just because it was an astronomical rate, then you have to be able to do more with less. DeBoer, very, very good at doing that. We have seen that, right? He has developed and done more with less at every single program he's ever gone to. And like we said, he's done nothing but win. But if you're under the mindset that you have to maintain this roster, I don't think that would be the way that you would go with this decision. You might be looking into more guys like Mike Norvell, who just got caught up in some shit down there at Florida State, because even though he is in some NIL sanctions, and even though the NCAA is going down to penalize Florida State with some of the heaviest stuff regarding Emeritus Mims, believe it or not, even though that's all happening, at least he's shown a willingness and an ability to recruit down there at Florida State. So that's kind of what I would pitch these two guys to an Alabama fan base with, right? On one hand, you got a coach that can do more with less, and he's going to have to. And you have this other coach who has a proven track record in the Southeast of not only winning football games, but doing so at a high recruiting rate on your roster.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a perfect answer to either one. The best answer is you keep Nick Saban forever, and he just coaches until time ends or the world ends, but obviously that's not possible. So now you have to kind of weigh the lesser of two evils. What's going to be here? Do we focus on getting this roster developed and maintaining that because that's proven to be the way you succeed in college football, or do we go to a guy who's gotten really good X's and O's, because that's also a major factor of winning games is you have to be able to manage your roster on the field.
Why do you think it is these two? Do you think it is these two names now because of those two reasons?
So I think it's these two names because it's where they've kind of fallen.
So
I
no
think,
Lane Train?
I think their very first phone call was Kirby Smart. And Kirby Smart was either, and it wasn't even Kirby, it was Jimmy, right? They called Jimmy Sexton and said, hey, what's it going to cost? I had heard rumors that Texas A&M threw the number 20 out. $20 million a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever you want.
Was this after Jimbo left?
Yeah, this was after Jimbo left. That was the number that I had heard. And from people that I talked to today, that was going to be the number that Alabama apparently has way more money than I ever imagined. Apparently there's some coal mining money left in Alabama. Apparently there's Paul Bryant Jr. has a bunch of money out there. There's another booster that I'm forgetting here as well. Apparently money is not an issue at Alabama. And, oh, by the way, they're the only college football program in the last 20 years to not have to pay a buyout. Okay, so they've got save for a rainy day fund.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they've got save for a rainy day fund at Alabama. So money is going to be no issue here. So I would assume they've already gotten no's, right? They've gotten no's from Kirby Smart. And after that, they probably got a no from Steve Sarkisian. And after that, they obviously called Dan Lanning and got a no. And now I think we're here at the DeBoer and we're here at the Norvell sweepstakes of things. And then after that, you mentioned Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin would be a tremendous coach at Alabama. I think Alabama would provide him the one thing he never had at Ole Miss, or will never have at Ole Miss, which is consistent ability to recruit at an elite level. And that would be awesome for him. I also think there's a life lesson to be learned here for every young person and every person listening to this right now, which is don't burn bridges. I would imagine there's some boosters at Alabama, and there's some people in that administration building that probably don't like the way that Lane Kiffin left that university. Okay, he's the first and only football coach that ever left that place with some stain on him. You know what I mean? Like, everybody gets it's a common joke in this industry. You want to get your image rebranded, go to Alabama, be an analyst, and then be a coordinator, and then boom, you got a head coaching job. Well, he was the first guy that they ever was like, hey man, just go. Like, I know you just got the FAU job, and I know we got a national championship coming up in a college football playoff, but just go. Just get out of here. We'll have Steve Sarkisian step in and call plays. Like that, I think the way he left that place pissed a lot of people off. Or else, and here's how I think. Here's why I think it's the number one reason why I think this. If Lane Kiffin were an option, that dude would already be in Tuscaloosa with his name on the dotted line. You think he don't want that job?